What's up, you guys? I hope you're all doing well. Today I'm going to be testing out new makeup, and man, I have some good stuff. I have this new palette from Lamora Cosmetics that I got over on Amazon. It's an I Need a Nude dupe, and it's 10 bucks. And I've already swatched this. I did a YouTube short about it, and so many of you were like, please try this in a video. So I'm going to be doing that today. So far, it seems really promising, and I think I'm gonna do this on one eye and the Natasha Denona on the other because I really want to see how they compare. I also got the new Buttermelt bronzers from NYX. I saw these at Target this morning, so of course I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna add those to the video. I also got the new NYX blur screen. So this is a blurring primer and SPF in one, which seems really cool as well. So yeah, just lots of fun stuff to check out. And if you're new to my channel, hi, my name is Jen, and I do a lot of makeup reviews here. Everything's completely unsponsored, so you're always getting my fully honest opinion. And yeah, I guess that about does it. So why don't we go ahead and jump right in and get started. All right, so I think I wanna go ahead and start with eyes first, and I really wanna show you this palette right here. So this is the Lamora Nude Eyeshadow Palette, and I feel like compared to the Natasha Denona one, even the cover art is kind of like very similar. They have really close vibes. Inside, the Lamora palette has 12 shades, the Natasha Denona has 15, but I do feel like some of the shades in the I Need a Nude palette are a little bit repetitive. So I like that the Lamora one is just like a slightly pared down version. I don't mind that it's missing 3 shades at all. And when I swatch these, I feel like the Lamora shades are a little bit smoother, and I don't know if that's just me, but especially the ones that are more of like the topper type of shades, they seem to be a little bit more metallic in the Lamora palette and a little bit more glittery in the Natasha Denona. And before I put these on my eyes, I just want to quickly show you 2 more Lamora palettes that I got from Amazon, because once I got this one and I liked it so much, I was like, let me try some more from the brand, and they were 1-day shipping, so they came really fast. So the first one that I have is basically a dupe for the Glam palette from Natasha Denona. This one's called the Attraction palette, and again, pretty much exact same shades as the Glam palette. I think this one is also really, really beautiful. And then the other one that I got is called the Purple Heart palette, and this one, it looks so familiar to me, and I cannot figure out what this is supposed to be duping, if anything. Maybe it's just supposed to be its own standalone palette, but I'm having such a mental block to this right now that I have no idea if it's a dupe to something or it isn't. So if you recognize this palette, let us know, help us out down in the comments. What is this supposed to be duping? It's beautiful, but it's bugging me so much that I can't figure out what this is. So anyway, let's go ahead and put on these palettes. So I've already prepped my eyes with the MAC Paint Pot in Painterly, and I wanna start with the Natasha Denona. So I'm gonna pick up the shade Stone on the A503 brush from BK Beauty, and I'm just gonna start blending this into my crease. I love this taupey shade. This is the one that I almost always start with when I use this palette. I feel like this is the perfect transition color for my skin tone because it's just like 1 step darker than my skin, and it has that nice cool grayish undertone. So I really love this a lot. All right, then I'm gonna pick up the shade Toasty in the Lamora palette right here. I'm hoping that this is just as pigmented, so we'll see. So far, yes, I'd say it definitely is. It's blending out really nicely. It has a soft texture. I feel like it's not too powdery. There's no like kick up going everywhere. So far, so good. I would say for me, the biggest difference that I'm seeing, at least in the mirror, is that this Lamora shade almost seems like it has a little bit of a pink undertone with the taupey gray, and this one is just more straight gray. I don't see that pink coming through. So I don't think that they're the exact same color, but they're pretty similar. Next up, I want to deepen the crease with the shade Tender, which is this one right here. And I'm just going to apply this one a little bit lower down and mostly toward the outer corner. And I'm using the A504 brush from BK Beauty. This is a nice small little brush. It's like a pencil brush, but it's fluffy, so you can actually blend with it. And it's perfect if you have hooded eyes. This is one of my favorite brushes. So I'm just kind of working this back and forth. And then I'm going to take that 503 brush that I used for my crease and just continue to blend this one out a little bit more. And then I'm gonna grab the shade Cocoa from the Lamora palette, and I'm gonna do the same thing over on this side. I'm curious to see if this is just as pigmented, because I feel like the Natasha Denona one, I had to really kind of struggle to blend this because it is really pigmented. And sometimes I feel like her shadows can be a little bit patchy on me, like a little harder to blend. So I'm hoping this one is more blendable. All right, I'm just gonna take the larger brush again and just start to blend this out. I mean, so far, it really does seem to be blending easier than this side did. But at the same time, I feel like the pigmentation is there. I'm not noticing much of a difference between the two, honestly. Next, I'm just gonna pat a little bit of the NYX glitter primer right on my lid. I'm not going up into the crease where I put the matte shadow at all, just on the lid portion where I'm gonna put a shimmer shade. And I'm gonna use this glittery topper right here called Mia from the Natasha Denona palette. And this way the NYX primer will help prevent any glitter fallout. This is one of her wet look shades, and especially from far away, it definitely gives that really super shiny wet appearance. Then I'm gonna pick up the shade Quartz from the Lamora palette right here. And I find that even when I'm just picking this up in the pan, it feels softer than the Natasha Denona. It almost feels like a regular shimmer shade rather than a topper. I don't feel like that little bit of grittiness that you feel from the glitters. It's definitely a lot smoother, which I prefer. And just as I'm applying this, I can already see that the Natasha Denona side looks more glittery and this side looks a little bit more metallic. It does have a little tiny bit of glitter, but I would say for the most part, the effect is just a little bit different. So here's close up. I think the color looks really similar, but definitely you can see more of the glitter particles in the Natasha Denona. And then over here, this one just looks more of like a metallic, pearly type of a finish. So they're just different in that way, but I think some of you may prefer the glitter, some of you may prefer the smoother finish, so I'd love to hear what you guys think. I also saw the new Tarte Tartelette Tubing XL mascara at Ulta, and this one, when I first saw it, I was confused. I was really wondering what's the difference between the old Tartelette Tubing mascara and the new one, because even when you look at the brushes look exactly the same. So according to the website, the new one is supposed to give you more length and volume, hence the XL in the name. The biggest difference I noticed with this one is that it actually removes like a tubing formula. I felt like the old one didn't. It didn't come off like in the little tubes with warm water. I felt like when I washed my eyes, they had some smudging underneath like a traditional mascara would have, and that was so confusing to me because they were calling this a tubing mascara and it just didn't really perform like one. I was so happy when I tried this new one for the first time and it actually removed like a tubing formula. So I wonder kind of if they're gonna just replace the old one with this one eventually, because they're literally almost the same thing with the same brush. So I feel like this is their way of maybe correcting the fact that the old one didn't remove like a tubing formula and everybody kind of complained about that. But I loved the way that it made my lashes look. That was really the only issue that I had with that formula. So now that this one is a true tubing formula, I love it. I think it's awesome. And also, I know that some of you guys don't like tubing formulas because they're harder to build up and you can't get that really like big false lash look. But with this one, I mean, right away, it gives tons of length and volume, and I feel like it's a wetter formula too. So it's really easy to build that volume very quickly. Okay, eyes are done. Let's move on to face. So I have this new NYX Blur Screen SPF 30 primer. So this says that it's a blurring primer and sunscreen in one with cactus flower extract and coconut juice. It is a blend of chemical sunscreens. I was kind of hoping it was mineral, but hopefully it won't bother my skin. I do really like the idea of a primer and sunscreen in one. If this blurs your pores and stuff, that's awesome. It's kind of like a one-step sort of product. This is really creamy. It's kind of on the thicker side for a chemical SPF, and it has this really like dewy feel. It kind of is reminding me of the Milani skin tint or the Glossier Future Dew. It has this really sort of thick, cushiony feeling to it, but it is sinking into my skin nicely. At first I was a little worried. It felt greasy. And I just want to put this on half of my face to start, and then we'll kind of compare the two sides. So let me just get my forehead. I'm not noticing any blurring, but I'm kind of waiting for this to just sink in a little bit because I think it just needs a minute to really set down. Something's telling me that anybody with oily skin isn't gonna like this because of this really heavy, greasy feel, but my dry skin is just drinking it right up. And looking at my skin in the mirror, I do see a little bit of blurring. Let me just zoom you guys in. Okay, so here we have it on this side. It does add a little bit of dewiness, so I think because it's not matte, it's not blurring as much as it possibly could. That little bit of a glow is still going to kind of allow the texture to come through a little bit. But then when I look over at this side, I feel like this side looks a lot more textured. So it does minimize your pores to a certain degree, but I wouldn't say it's the most blurring primer in the world. I think that's usually something we see with those more mattifying primers, but otherwise, I mean, I think it feels really nice. So, all right, I'm just gonna go ahead and do the rest of my face. The only thing I will say is that it's pretty heavily fragranced like coconut, and I know it has coconut juice in the formula, so that could be part of what's causing this to smell this way, but I also did see fragrance on the ingredient list, so it does have some added scent as well. I also feel like this doesn't dry down completely. There's a little bit of like a sticky, tacky feel, but I think that's gonna be really good for gripping foundation. So for foundation today, I'm gonna be using the CoverGirl Simply Ageless Skin Perfector Essence. This has been one of my favorites, and I actually changed shades. I had originally used the light shade, and I went up to light medium because I just felt like the light one was slightly too light for me, and I feel like light medium is so perfect. I like it even more now. I definitely think you should probably go up a shade from what you would normally buy in this one because it does just seem to run a little bit light, but this is really the foundation that I've been wearing the most lately because I just love this water light texture. It feels like you're applying skincare, but it has coverage. It's so nice. And so far it seems to be applying really well over the primer. I'm not getting any kind of pilling. It's actually gripping really well, even to my nose, which is surprising. So I think the primer's actually doing a great job at gripping everything to my skin. I mean, it's really grabbing on. It's not sliding around at all. I think I see even more of that blurring effect now because my skin is just looking so smooth, and it normally does with the CoverGirl, but I feel like it's looking even smoother than usual, especially on my cheek area. Moving on, let's talk about the Buttermelt bronzers from NYX. So I got two different shades. I got shade 1, which is Buttercup, and shade 2, which is all Buttered Up. So these are supposed to be a super ultra smooth formula, and when I saw the swatches of these, they looked nice and rosy toned, which was really appealing to me because I love a rosy toned bronzer. So these claim to be a buildable, lightweight formula that's infused with mango butter, shea butter, and almond butter, and they're supposed to be transfer resistant and crease resistant for up to 12 hours. They're also supposed to never be greasy, muddy, ashy, or patchy. And I have to admit, I was a little bit surprised by two things when I swatched these. The first thing is that they weren't quite as rosy as I was expecting. In the swatches, they almost looked like straight up blushes. And on my skin, they definitely do look a little bit more like bronzers than blushes, but they also do seem to have a little bit of a rosy undertone, so I'm happy about that. They also do have this incredibly silky feel. When you go to blend them, they just kind of blend and blend. They seem like they're going to be absolutely amazing as far as that goes. And there are also two other things that surprised me about these. One is that they smell almost exactly like the Physicians Formula Butter Bronzers. And I know so many of you guys can't stand that scent, so you're not going to want to get these if you don't like that fragrance, the coconut smell, because these, like I said, they're pretty much exactly the same as the Physicians Formula, and they're really strong. I happen to love coconut scents and I don't mind it, but I'm just putting it out there. The other thing is, when I was swatching these, I noticed that they have a little bit of glow. So they're not matte bronzers, and it doesn't say anything about them having glow in the description. So I was very surprised when swatching these that they do have that little bit of glow. Not like a highlighter glow, but definitely there. So I want to start with the lightest shade first, Buttercup, and I'll see what this looks like, and then we'll use the slightly deeper shade. So this one really just looks peachy. I feel like I could almost use this one as a blush, but let's see. Whoa, okay, really pigmented. Let me just get some of the excess off. But actually, yeah, like this blends out. Oh my gosh, that was effortless. It's so easy to blend. That required almost no effort. It's beautiful. It's so smooth. no patchiness at all. And I think this color is perfect if you're more on the fair side. I could probably go up a shade, but if you just want a really, really subtle bronze, this is beautiful. All right, I'm gonna try the other color on the other cheek. I'm not gonna pick up quite as much. So by the way, this is the BK Beauty 111 brush. So yeah, when you first put it on, it's like, whoa, too much product, but watch how easy this blends out. It's just so quick. Like, that's it, it's done. That is so pretty. I honestly think you could even use these as more of a nude blush if you wanted to, because they do have that kind of peachy rosy undertone. But yeah, I think either one of these would work for my skin tone. I think this one's a little bit more brown. This one's a little bit more peachy, but I'm super impressed with the formula and how absolutely effortless these are to blend out. So I'm just gonna, I think, use shade 2, and I'm gonna use this along my forehead. I think this one just gives me more of that bronzer look, while the other one, it just looks a little bit more peachy. So I'm gonna add some of the darker color on this side. And another thing, I did not powder my face, and when I first put that first swatch of bronzer on my cheek, I was like, oh no, I didn't powder, and my face feels a little bit sticky from that SPF primer, and I thought this is never gonna blend. It's gonna look so muddy, but look at how easily it blended even over a dewy complexion. I think that's actually what shocked me the most. I wasn't expecting it to blend out nearly as easily as it did, and it looks flawless. I know some of you might be wondering how these compare to the Jones Road Dusty Rose bronzer. This is a bronzer I haven't found a dupe for yet, so I'm just gonna see really quick. I don't think so. I think this one is a lot more rosy. It pretty much looks like a blush, but let's just swatch them next to each other really fast. Actually, shade number 2 is pretty close. Okay, so yeah, we have shade number 1 in the NYX. This is the Jones Road in the middle, and then this is NYX number 2. So I think the Jones Road is a little more pink, and I think the NYX is actually a little bit more peachy. It's not quite as pink as it looked in those swatches on the website. So that's really the biggest difference for me, but I still think even though it's not as pink and it's a little more peachy, it still works on my complexion really well. So I'm actually really excited for these. I'm so impressed at how they blended out. So as far as blush goes, I don't have a blush that's new. So I think I'm gonna do something that I usually do when I wear the I Need a Nude palette. And I'm just gonna pick up the shade Vague, because this one is really a beautiful blush color. And I like to just pop my blush brush right into it. It's super easy, and I feel like it's already perfectly coordinated to go with any eye look that you would do with this palette. So I think it's just such a beautiful color. It really works well. So I think I'm gonna see if there's one in the Lamora palette that's the same. Yes. So this one is Enigma, and I'm gonna be using this shade right here. Yeah, this color is really similar. I feel like there's not much of a difference between the two at all. In fact, just to tie everything together, I think I'm gonna also pick up the shade that I used for blush and just kind of run it along the top of my crease, just to tie this color into the eye look a little bit, because I realized I didn't use it at all in the eye look. Then for lips, I usually use this pencil when I use the I Need a Nude palette also. This is the Makeup Forever Artist Color Pencil in the shade Wherever Walnut. And this is almost the exact same color as that shadow that I just used as blush. I find that this pencil just coordinates with this palette so well. I love it. So I usually just use it as a lipstick. I just do the outline and then fill my lips in. And then for some hydration, I'm just gonna apply the Neutrogena Hydro Boost lip oil. This is just a clear color, so it's not going to change things at all. And yeah, here's the final look. What do you guys think? I'm so impressed with the Lamora palette, honestly. I feel like the look came out pretty much the same on both sides, except for that topper shade that looks a little bit different. But if I'm being honest, I actually prefer it to the glitter a little bit more. So I'm really excited for these palettes. I can't wait to use the Glam one and the purple one. Also, these Buttermelt bronzers, wow. Blown away by how these apply. I think they are just the silkiest, smoothest powder ever. I'm really just so impressed. I wish they didn't have the fragrance. I would say that's the biggest thing. But even the little bit of glowy texture that they had when swatching, I don't notice that translating to my face. So whatever it is very subtle. And when it comes to the blur screen primer, I also really like this so far. This is the first time I'm using it, but I felt like it helped my foundation to grip so much better. And my skin looks really, really smooth with this. So I wasn't completely sold when I first put it on because I didn't notice a huge blurring effect. But once I put my foundation on top, I think that's when I really saw the difference. So this is really good so far, at least first impression wise. The Tarte mascara also is something I definitely think is worth buying, especially if you love the original one. This one removes even easier and it really performs like a true tubing mascara, and I think I might even get a little bit more length and volume out of the new one. So I'm thinking this is going to replace the old one, but we'll have to see what they do. I know at least for me it's going to replace the older one, and I've repurchased that now a few times, so I'm definitely switching to this one. So yeah, I think we had a full face of big hits today. I'm really excited about all of these products and I would definitely recommend them. Of course, I'll let you know in a pinned comment how everything wore throughout the day. I would do a wear test, but tonight is going to be really busy. My son has some school stuff. We're going to my in-laws' house, so I just don't think I'll have time to sit down and film what I look like at the end of the night, but I for sure will let you know in a pinned comment. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. As always, I really, really appreciate it. If you have some extra time and you'd like to watch another one of my videos, I'll put something right up here for you to check out next. Thank you guys. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in my next video. Take care. Bye.